Hi folks, as you may have noticed, I've got a new 22 carbine and I've posted a couple of videos on it already, and I decided I'd do a comparison between the new 13-inch barreled Norinco JW-15A carbine and the 24-inch barreled version of this firearm that I previously had purchased. And it was curious to see what kind of velocity differences were achieved with the 13-inch barrel versus the 24-inch barrel of the rifle. So I decided to fire 10 shots out of each rifle over the chronograph on the same day out of the same box of ammunition, and would see what kind of average velocities we got with each firearm. The first type of ammunition up was this Winchester 333 bulk pack, and the average velocity achieved out of the short barrel carbine was 1260 feet per second, and once again that is for a 10 shot string. I then fired 10 additional shots out of the same box of ammunition at the same time of day out of the 24-inch barreled rifle, and the average for that was 1283 feet per second. So a velocity gain of only 23 feet per second with the long barrel over the short barrel. So put another way, that's 98.2% of the velocity out of the 13-inch barrel as was achieved out of the 24-inch barrel. The next ammunition tested was American Eagle, and out of the short 13-inch barrel, it had an average velocity of 1229 feet per second, which was about what one would expect. And then later on, when checked out of the 24-inch barrel, it achieved an average velocity of 1231 feet per second. So a gain of only 2 feet per second on average, and put another way, that's 99.8% of the velocity out of the short barrel that was achieved out of the long barrel. So that was surprisingly close together. I didn't think there'd be that close of a match in the speeds achieved. The next type of ammunition which I tested was Remington Yellow Jacket, and for that round I kind of expected there to be a bigger difference between the velocity achieved in the short barrel and the long barrel. Now with the short barrel, the average velocity achieved was 1444 feet per second. Switching over to the rifle barrel, the average velocity achieved was 1463 feet per second, for a gain of only 19 feet per second, and put another way, that's 98.7% of the speed out of the short barrel that you got out of the long barrel. So that one surprised me quite a bit as well, because I expected there to be a big difference, because normally the high velocity loads use a larger charge of slower burning powder, so I kind of figured that would take a little more barrel to get up to speed, but apparently not. The Yellow Jacket performed quite well in the short barrel. The next round tested was CCI Blaser, and a 10-shot string out of the carbine gave 1253 feet per second on average. Moving over to the 24-inch barreled rifle, the 10-shot average was 1235 feet per second. So it actually shot slower out of the rifle than it did out of the carbine. So that was another sort of a big surprise. It's actually 18 feet per second slower out of the longer barrel. So put another way, the carbine got 101.4% of the speed that the rifle did. So here's a case where less barrel apparently is more. So once again, another kind of a surprise there. The next type of ammunition tested was some 30-plus year old Dominion C.I.L. IVI. I'm not sure exactly which generation of 22 ammunition this is from that company, but it achieved a velocity out of the short barrel of 1132 feet per second. Moving on to the 24-inch rifle barrel, the ammunition achieved 1144 feet per second. So that's a gain of 12 feet per second over the 10-shot string, and that means that the short 13-inch barrel achieved 98.9% of the speed that the long barrel achieved. So that seems to be pretty much a trend here for what kind of performance I've been getting with this stuff out of the short barrel. And now another word about this ammunition, like I said, it is quite old, but it still seemed to be reasonably consistent for such old ammunition. And like I said, I'm not sure which generation of IVI this stuff is because it actually came without a label on the box. So the last type of ammunition which I tested was SK magazine 22, and a 10-shot string out of the short barrel averaged 1,058 feet per second. However, this one here actually showed a bit of a gain in the long barrel, because out of the long barrel it achieved a velocity of 1,103 feet per second, or a gain of 45 feet per second. So in this case, the short barrel only got 95.9% of the velocity that was achieved in the long barrel. But I would have to say that overall, the short barrel's velocity achievements were right up there with the long barrel. Having done a little bit of math on the whole thing, figured it out that if I average all those rounds that I tested together, basically the short barrel averaged out to 98.9% of the velocity out of the that I got from the long barrel. So that's a pretty good result in my opinion. So all in all, I found this to be kind of an interesting little test to run. Doesn't cost a whole lot of money, and do a little bit of shooting with the 22 in the afternoon, and it kind of enhanced my knowledge of the velocities that I can expect out of this little carbine. And it also leads me to believe that perhaps the short barrel like this is just as good as a long barrel. About the only thing I can say is it's louder, other than the fact that you get more muzzle noise and a shorter sight radius. There doesn't really seem to be any particular disadvantage to having the short barrel on the carbine like this. Of course, depends on what part of the world you live in. There may be some issues with legality in some places, but where I live, this is a 100% legal little carbine to have without any particular hassle, at least at this point in time in history. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. We'll talk to you later.